Alexander Volkanovski enjoyers, welcome. This is Operation Save Volkanovski's career. I have seen his interviews since his fight with Ilia Topuria, where he lost by KO in the main event of UFC 298, and he is demanding a rematch against Ilia Topuria, and so are so many MMA fans as well. I see them in the comment sections. They're saying that he's earned a rematch, he deserves a rematch, but is a rematch the best move for Alexander Volkanovski's career? In my opinion, no. I'm going to show you in today's video the 5 possible career paths for Alexander Volkanovski, and in these empty boxes on the screen, I'm going to place his next move, the next fighter that he will take on his pathway back to greatness. We can't let him end up like Tony Ferguson. Speaking of which, this is pathway number 1. We're going to go through all of these in today's video. This is the Ferguson path. Absolute guaranteed sadness, despair, and the end of the career of Alexander Volkanovski. We move on. High risk, 145-pound return. I'm going to come back through all of these and do the video. High risk, 145-pound return. This is the high risk move. This is how Volkanovski gets back to the top where he belongs at a very safe way of doing things. Okay? Not in a safe way of doing things. I would say in a respectable but also safe way of doing things. This is the safety first 145-pound return. This is, forget what anyone says online about him cherry picking opponents. This is how you guarantee Alexander Volkanovski returns to somewhere near his peak form before he ends up fighting for the featherweight title again. This is the 155-pound glory hunt, where he moves up to lightweight, abandons featherweight for good, and then just focuses his attention on lightweight and takes very high risk, high reward matchups to get as much fame as possible, as much glory as possible, and also as much achievement as possible. We also have the safety first 155-pound run, where he moves up to 155 and just takes some nice, approachable matchups for himself that are also still dangerous, of course, because he's not going to be fighting anyone outside the top 10, is he? We'll start with the Ferguson pathway. Now, this is how he ends up like Tony Ferguson. I'll tell you how he ends up like Tony Ferguson, and I want you to listen to me clear, because I see a lot of people advocating for Volkanovski to end up like Ferguson. The way he ends up like Ferguson is, he rematches Ilia Topuria, where he will be KO'd. End of discussion. If he rematches Ilia Topuria, it's going to be at some time, maybe 6 months from now at best, for Volkanovski. It's going to be on Ilia Topuria's home turf. Ilia's going to be so confident. He's 27 years old. He's only going to get better. Volkanovski will be beaten in a rematch against Ilia Topuria. He could win. It's MMA. It's all a fluke at the end of the day. He could land a head kick in round 1 that KOs Ilia. He won't, but he could. So I understand the idea of, let's not risk losing to a contender. I'd rather lose to the best in the world and, make sure that if I am going to lose, it's going to be by taking the most opportune situation, which is to try and get his belt back. I understand. But he will lose if he takes a rematch to Ilia Topuria right now. Fact. If he loses to Ilia Topuria, they're going to kill him. Because that would be 3 chinnings in a row. Or should I say, no, it will be. It'll be 3 chinnings in a row. Lost to Makhachev, got chinned by a head kick. Got chinned by Ilia in this fight at UFC 298. And then he would have got chinned by Ilia Topuria again. And then Josh Emmett will be lurking around the number 5 spot in the rankings, looking for his chance in a title elimination bout. And I know Volk will charge headfirst into that matchup. Because that's what Volk does. Oh, you lot saying I ain't got a chin? I'll fucking prove it to yous. Gets KO'd by Josh Emmett. Hopefully that's not the pathway that Volkanovski goes down. This is how you end a career. I'm not saying he can't beat Josh Emmett. This is the worst possible move he could make, though. We move on to the high risk 145-pound return. This is where he doesn't jump straight into the immediate rematch, but he jumps straight into the deep end still. Movsar Evloev. I like this matchup for Alexander Volkanovski. In a 5-rounder, I love this matchup. And I think at this point in Volk's career, his management team, listen up, he has the power to call a shot as a top contender. In fact, I would argue that a big-name top contender, in terms of who they're fighting next, a big name top contender has more freedom of choice than a champion. A champion has a responsibility. It's got to be the best next option, or it'll be the second best option, unless you're Sean O'Malley and you get given Marlon Vera. Either way, burping up vitamin C. Either way, Volkanovski can say to the UFC, I'm sure, hey, listen, I want to go to Australia, I want to defend in my hometown, and I want to defend my number one ranking spot against Movsar Evloev, 5-rounder in a fight night main event. I don't think he needs to do a pay-per-view. If he's on a pay-per-view at this point, he's not going to be fighting for 5 rounds. Fight night event in Australia. Alexander Volkanovski headlining in a 5-rounder against Movsar Evloev. Risky? Yes. But Alexander Volkanovski has wicked takedown defense, amazing takedown defense, cannot be held down, and I don't think would be by Evloev, seeing as Evloev couldn't hold down Arnold Allen. I don't think he would be able to do it to Volkanovski. And what's one thing about Evloev? Pillow hands. Now, he did wobble Allen because Allen charged headfirst into a jab, I think it was, in their last fight. But other than that, Evloev has really shown no ability to knock out an opponent or finish them. So in a 5-rounder, which this fight likely will end up being with Volkanovski and Ilia Topuria and Movsar Evloev, I like Volkanovski's chance. And if he can get past Evloev, he can have some momentum behind him. Maybe Ilia Topuria gets into a bit of a scrap with his next opponent. Maybe it's Sean O'Malley. Maybe he takes a head kick or two. And then Ilia can turn around into the Volkanovski fight. And then we can do that rematch. I still don't think this would work. I think regardless of him taking a fight in between, Ilia would end up beating him. But I think this gives him a much better chance. And this is the high risk 145-pound return. We go to the move that I would make for Volkanovski if I was his manager. This is the move I would make. I would know that there's a bantamweight moving up to 145 real soon. And that bantamweight is Aljamain Sterling. This is the safety first 145-pound return is what this is, okay? The safety first route. Aljamain Sterling's fighting Calvin Kattar. Whoever wins that matchup is nice for Volkanovski. Kattar's a bit more tricky because he's a bit more dangerous on the feet, but I think Volk could beat him, especially this new coming back off of a multiple injury to his knee, Calvin Kattar. If Aljo ends up beating Kattar, Volkanovski, this is very important. You need 5-rounders here. Volkanovski, call your shot, 155 pounds. Hey, Aljo, I know you're probably not going to get any good matchups. The UFC is not going to do you any favors. They don't really want you at the top of featherweight, let's be honest. So, here's me giving you your shot. I'm number 1 at featherweight. You just beat Calvin Kattar, who I believe is number 8 in the rankings. You're now number 7/8. You're on the pound for pound list. Let's run it. You were the former bantamweight champ. I was the former featherweight champ. We both were on the debate of GOAT status in our division. Let's run the matchup against each other. Because again, Aljo is like number 12 on the pound for pound list. And Volkanovski, I assume, is going to be like number 5 minimum on the pound for pound list come Tuesday. So, Volkanovski versus Sterling is a matchup that I think is smart for Volk. And I think he would win it in a 5-rounder. And once he gets through Sterling, then we can talk about the Movsar Evloev matchup being done. Maybe Evloev is still waiting around for a matchup. Maybe Evloev is, coming off a win, but it's not good enough to give him a title shot. There's another hold-up. Someone else gets in the way at the title at 145. Maybe he gets his title shot after a win and loses it, and then Volkanovski's going into a matchup with him. Either way, by the way, I want this to be clear, neither of these pathways take place before September. Just going to be honest with you guys. This fight is in September between him and Evloev, and this fight between him and Sterling is in September. If it's Sterling, I don't mind it being August. I don't. In fact, I don't mind it being August for either of them because they're not really power punches. But August, September is the earliest I want to see Volkanovski back in there. This is the pathway I would take. I would look for the Sterling matchup. I'd look for the Evloev matchup. And you know what you should do, Volk? You should play it as, now I don't want to be given an immediate rematch. We got a division and needs to move on. I'll earn my shot and show that I still got it before I go back in there. I know Volk's ego is going to say he knows he's better than Ilia Topuria and he's going to go jump straight into a rematch. But that's the approach he should have. I need to prove I've still got it. I'm going to do that. And I think that will get respect from the fan base. And they'll say, wow, he passed on a title shot to prove that he's still a top-level contender before he gets his shot again. That's still a true champion mindset that he has. That was how he can twist the audience into thinking that what he's doing is heroic, even though he is just taking on easier matchups. We also have the 155-pound glory hunt. Now, I do not advise the 155-pound move. If he would have beaten Ilia Topuria, I would have advised it. I would have said, dude, hang up the belt at 145. Get rid of it. You know what I mean? Maybe hold on to it until they make an interim and then force you to be stripped of the belt, just in case you have to go back down and fail at lightweight. But give up your ideas at featherweight. Move up to lightweight for good if you would have beaten Ilia Topuria. Now I don't advise this move to lightweight or this safety first move to lightweight either. But if Charles Oliveira loses to Arman Tsarukyan, he's going to be looking for a matchup. He's also going to be older. There's also going to be questions of him being over the hill. Do I think he would beat Alexander Volkanovski in a matchup anyway? Yes, but for Volkanovski, this is a high-risk, high-reward matchup. If he can get the jump on Oliveira in any way, maybe he can, who knows? If he can somehow get the jump on Oliveira, which I don't think he would, I think he loses in this storyline here. If he can get the jump on Olives, he can put himself in position to potentially just maybe finish off the glory hunt and catch a McGregor who might fluke a win over Chandler. You never know. I don't think McGregor's going to beat Chandler, but if McGregor does get that win over Chandler and land that perfect shot, and Volk's just somehow gotten a win over Oliveira at lightweight and he's back and, you know, he waited till September and he purely bulked up to lightweight for the entire time, took time off of sparring, just hit the gym, packed on some good muscle, then started going back into training around the middle of the year and now he's at lightweight. If he would get past Oliveira, then the McGregor fight would be waiting for him and it would be an epic story of a glory hunt gone right at 155 for Alexander Volkanovski. This is the safer route at 155. It could also involve McGregor, but for the purpose of this video and for the purpose of variation, I've made it not involve McGregor. Otherwise, it would be boring putting the same people in every single pathway. We got Alexander Volkanovski versus, why not? You know, kill him. Get rid of him. And easy win for Volk. Risky still. But why not? You know, let's not play any games here. Let's not risk anything. Get back in there against Beneil Dariush. Now, Beneil's coming off a loss. Maybe will never be the same. Alexander Volkanovski, Beneil Dariush at lightweight for a spot in the top 10 in September. It's not going to happen, but it would be fun. And I think it would be smart if he could push for that fight. Then if he gets past Dariush, a matchup I think is nicer for him than an Oliveira or a Gaethje or a Makhachev or an Arman Tsarukyan is potentially Poirier coming off a win after going to war with Benoit Saint Denis. Or Poirier maybe even coming off a loss. This is still a bit of a glory hunt, but it's an approachable matchup stylistically for Volkanovski to have success at 155. I reckon the pathway he should take is not this one or he'll end up like Tony Ferguson. Not this one. I think he should take this route. He won't. I don't think he can. You can't do 2 fights and then fight for a belt again. The UFC is probably going to force him into a title fight if he tries to pull this off. Not the lightweight move. Not the lightweight move. It's probably this. Tell Movsar Evloev, hey Movsar, I hear Ilia doesn't want to take you on, or, you know, doesn't feel like you've earned a title shot, neither does Dana White. I know a way you can earn your title shot. Come put it all on the line against me in Australia in August/September. 5-round main event. UFC Fight Night Sydney. UFC Fight Night, I don't know what other part of Australia, Perth. Whatever they want to do. Main event, Volkanovski, Evloev. That might be the smartest move. Evloev doesn't have knockout power, doesn't have finishing ability. He's going to have to be better than Volkanovski for 5 rounds to beat him. I don't think he can be. And then the Ilia Topuria rematch, which I still don't think goes well. I think Ilia's just got his number, and I've been saying that, so we'll see. Toodle pip. See you later. Goodbye.